New York, and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
It's Ebro in the morning. Beautiful Laura Styles Rosenberg. Give it up for Nana Ashhurst and our guy Rocky Bucano, the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Yes, this is a real thing.
Yes,
real thing.
Address, we have an address now. 65 East 149th Street.
65 East 149th Street. That's where we will start construction in 2020 on our new museum, and we will open in 2023, the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Now we can't assume that everybody has been following along with your journey in getting this done, along with so many others, right? I get the emails. You and Kurtis Blow have been up here. And we've talked about on the show many times how our history is kept, right? Or not kept so well, right? And unless, a community and a culture have resources to commemorate their existence and their, accomplishments, it doesn't get done. It's not going to get done for you.
It's not going to get done for you. So, we have to have organizations and cultural institutions that are responsible for the documentation of our culture.
Right.
And that's what the museum is. That's our mission. That's our purpose. I was with Melly Mel and Grandmaster Cass last night just talking about this, and it's basically, if we don't tell our stories, we're going to leave it up to other people to tell our stories.
And they will tell the story from their own perspective.
Now, Nana, your background, we've sat with Rocky before, but we'd love to hear. And now your title at the Universal Hip Hop Museum is?
I'm chairman of the board at the Hip Hop Museum,
Okay.
Universal Hip Hop Museum. And I was the first president of Def Jam Recordings back in, I started in 1980. Actually, I was president from 1989, and then continued through Rush Communications with Def Comedy Jam, and continued through to 1992.
And so LL Cool J.
LL Cool J, Public Enemy.
Third Base.
Third Base, yes.
I'm just thinking about that time, that window specifically of who was really coming at that moment.
Slick Rick was
Slick
Rick.
Rick, yeah, of course. It was a pretty great moment in Def Jam.
Nikki D was on the label.
Daddy's
Allison
Little Girl.
Williams, Daddy's Little Girl.
Yeah.
Allison Williams was on. The Juice was on for.
Yes.
Right.
This is
And
pretty
so,
cool.
you have a specific purview, right? Perspective of looking at this, and making sure that we get certain things placed into the museum, right? And I'm sure you still have those relationships. How are you guys curating? How's the curating process going? And when this gets unveiled on the 50th anniversary, do you guys know what's going to be in there already?
I mean, we don't actually have everything that we need. We're still collecting a lot of stuff, but we're collecting artifacts, memorabilia, clothing, equipment. We got the original speakers from the Roxy nightclub that was donated to us. So, it's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with our archives and our curatorial team. But we're getting ready to open up a sneak preview of the museum called The Revolution of Hip Hop at the Bronx Terminal Market on December 6th.
Bronx Terminal Market, December 6th.
Yep,
okay.
and that is basically a collaboration with Microsoft and MIT Center for Advanced Virtuality. And it's really just to give people, because so many people want to know what the museum is going to be about, what it's going to be like. So we decided to partner with the related companies on a space at the Bronx Terminal Market just to open up a small sneak preview of the future museum, so that when people actually come to New York and they say, hey, I heard there's a hip-hop museum coming or being built here in New York, they can actually come before the museum is actually finished.
And see something.
Yeah.
And how long is that going to be up for?
It's actually going to be open until the museum is finished with construction.
Okay.
So
it'll be some miniature version of the museum that will last for the next 3 years until we get there.
Correct.
And the exhibits are scheduled to change every 6 months. So, and they will cover by decades, for how, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And within those decades, is it just about the artists, or what else are we getting in there?
It's an immersive experience of the entire hip hop experience. So all the 5 elements of hip hop. We are MIT created this AI-driven experience called the Elementals, taking a play off the 5 elements of hip hop and using Microsoft AI to basically help curate a history of hip hop based on your personal musical interests.
Wow.
That's dope.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. We have Joe Conzo, he's the
lot of photos.
A lot of photos. We got Bill Adler. He's got a big archive. Prime Minister Pete Nice has got the flyers, and he's been a historian for many years. And Paradise Gray from the X-Clan as our curators to kick it off. So we're really excited about the grand opening of the Revolution of Hip Hop. And the biggest thing, it's free for the general public.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Yep. So, it's not, bring the entire family from, little kids ages 5 to 50, come enjoy this.
Now, we heard Nana. And Nana, you're from New York?
Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn. So obviously you close to hip hop your whole life.
Yes.
And
well, no, actually, because I'm old, So,
Well,
so
I
came.
Of your life.
Yes,
A lot
right,
of your life.
right. But I grew up actually in the R&B era, and then came into hip hop as hip hop was coming into popularity.
So funk and disco and R&B and all of those things was more.
But I was a
your
party
youth.
girl long before hip hop. I was
Right.
hip before hip hop.
Right. And so when hip hop, let me ask you this. I would love to hear from you. You're in the clubs.
Yes.
Hip hop becomes a thing.
Yes,
Now
now
it's being played in the clubs. How was it initially received?
Oh, well, at first, in the clubs it was received well. On the radio, it was not.
That's right.
Right. And so we had to spend a lot of time marketing through the clubs and through underground radio, underground marketing, and actually having people literally carry the records, right, around to the different clubs to have people play. And so the MCs were really significant at that period of time because they were the ones who really were bringing the culture to the public.
And so black radio, I'm told at that time, BLS was not embracing. I mean, obviously you had the
No.
weekend shows and things like that, but
Frankie
anything,
Crocker wasn't messing with it, right?
No.
No, not at all. No, and they thought that we were actually an embarrassment to the community, right?
street talk, street lyrics,
street
like
clothes, right? The hair was, hair got back to being natural. It had been, the Michael Jackson Prince era had been a whole
Jerry
curl thing. Okay, so and Big Daddy came and changed all that, right? And other artists who so as Rocky said that hip hop is more than just the music; it's the culture in general, and the culture was very threatening.
So mainstream black entertainment at the time, late 70s, 80s, did not like the Afrocentricity and pro-blackness and club street of hip hop.
Not at all. Not at all. Felt it was very threatening. Did not represent black people well.
Didn't represent the assimilated black man.
Right. No. And we were actually antithetical to the Motown look, where
It was
Motown
clean and mainstream.
as you know, Def Jam was founded by Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin, but Russell Simmons in particular was interested in having the music not have the music cross over to the audience, but have the audience actually cross over to hip hop, and in fact was very successful in doing precisely that.
Well, it was interesting that Russell seemed to have such an obsession with being anti R&B and what was sort of the standard of black music at that point. He really wanted hip hop to be closer to punk and something that was completely anti the system. It's kind of funny when you think about where LL ended up landing as an artist and being the R&B-ish sort of hip hop artist in the late 80s, early 90s, because at the beginning they wanted everything. It felt like Russell wanted everything to be hard.
Yes, but he was also, we had an R&B label on Def Jam. Black Gold and Orange Juice Jones
Did
performed.
the Rain, Orange Juice Jones was a big
Yep,
record.
Right. Allison Williams, Just Call My Name was on it. Blue Magic came on already.
Right.
So there was some. He had a particular interest in R&B, but he liked R&B that also was more quote unquote street than the Motown sound, right? But it was a period of time when not just the music was screaming, but the culture was screaming, the community was screaming, and people were looking for a voice. People were looking for a music that was an entertainment that was that was part of their own experience, and so he happened to hit on that moment. When we were the early years, we were also a management company, Rush Artist Management, and through there we managed. Big Daddy Kane and Eric B. and Rakim, right? Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince were on our management team. So it was a broad spectrum of the early hip hop culture.
And what was happening, and I have this conversation, I've got into it on social media where I've talked about Motown being like, that was Motown was seen, at least how my dad put it. It was great music. He loved Smokey Robinson. He loved all that, but it was squares. You know what I'm saying? It was for squares. It was, the watered down, version of black music that was acceptable for mainstream America. Obviously, until Marvin started speaking socially and these other things happened.
There was more progressive stuff happening in R&B, but people were not. That wasn't what they were famous for. But every artist,
the Isley Brothers did fight the power,
right, and so did James Brown,
yeah.
right? So that was just not what the R&B was pushing. It was certainly Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes were another one who wake up everybody. So there was like a lot of power music in R&B, but that was not what it was known for. Motown was really known for being clean.
That's right.
For being sophisticated,
polished,
palatable,
palatable. Right. But without question, classic. I mean, there's no doubt that.
No, not taking anything away from it. I
right.
think it was,
Smokey was like remains one of the great lyricists of all time.
But but keeping what was going on and the things people were feeling in black neighborhoods away from the conversation in music was something that people were pushing back against.
Yes, it was very much an escapist music rather than a
real
music. Mm-hmm.
Especially for the kids up in the Bronx, the South Bronx, up in the clubs. They heard the the Motown sound. We grew up on the Motown sound, but when we went to parties, we didn't listen to that. We listened to James Brown, Jimmy Castor. We listened to the Incredible Bongo Rock Band and Babe Ruth. Those were the songs that we kind of like vibed to because it had that energy. It gave us that escapism that we wanted to hear from a street perspective. We wanted to be anti,
Well, it wasn't your parents' music. You wanted your own music.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happens now.
Exactly.
Same thing happens now. Kids never want what their parents was rocking to.
Exactly. And then we look back on these kids today and say, what are they doing? So
always. It just repeats.
It just repeats.
If you look at old school flyers, I think it's really interesting because people forget how young hip hop was, right? When you look at the flyers and they're like, so and so's high school is gonna be there,
exactly.
or junior high school is gonna be there.
Exactly.
I think people forget.
It was all teenagers.
Right.
It was all teenagers. It was teenage driven.
And now it's getting ready to be 50. It's
Yeah.
getting ready to be 50. So there are people now in their 40s who have that has been their popular music. That's been their dance music all their lives, and
That's right.
their grandparents.
Yeah. So it's an exciting time for us as the driving force to really establish a cultural institution to document this history. It's really exciting. It's like building pyramids, to be honest with you.
Right. No, it's much
Now,
needed.
Rocky, what brought you to the Universal Hip Hop Museum for people who haven't seen our other conversation?
Well, I've been around hip hop since the very beginning. I started as a teenage DJ myself. My cousin was Pete DJ Jones. He was one of the big mobile DJs back in the day. And I grew up with, Africa Bambaataa and Flash and those guys. I grew up on the northeast side of the Bronx, and that doesn't really get much play in the history of hip hop. But, hip hop was really happening everywhere in the Bronx. It wasn't just happening really in the South Bronx. It was happening everywhere. And I just happened to be fortunate because my cousin used to take me around to the clubs to watch him DJ, and I was a young 15-year-old just sitting in the back watching, what we call the suit and tie, the shoe crowd. You couldn't get into the club with sneakers, so you had to come dressed up with your shoes on. But Pete, to his credit, he didn't just play the disco music, which was prevalent at that time. He would play the James Browns. He would play, all the cutting edge R&B that we were just talking about, because that was the funk and soul that people really, the black community wanted to dance to. They didn't want to dance to Donna Summers or Giorgio Moroder, what you would hear in the traditional disco stations. So, I learned my craft from Pete, and I was able to take that and leverage it and become my own DJ at the Stardust Ballroom, which was one of the big clubs back in the mid 70s, early 80s. And from that, I had my own record company with Jazzy J called Strong City Records, and that was during the golden era of hip hop. And I worked with Teddy Riley and Blackstreet and become an artist manager at that time. But for me, it's just a passion project. It's something that I love. We're not the first organization that has attempted to get a museum off the ground. There's been others, but we're the ones that have the real I guess, the real power behind us now, because we got Microsoft, we got the funding from the city and the state to help us get this project up, and we actually have land that we're building on. So it's not a dream anymore. You know, we used to say, "Oh, this is an ambitious concept. It's an ambitious dream," but this is actually happening.
This is real.
This is the real thing.
Now, how's Kurtis doing? Because we know Kurtis Blow was a big part of pulling this whole thing together, and I know he's been ill and had to have a procedure recently. So how's Kurtis Blow doing?
Kurtis is doing actually very well. He's on tour now with the Hip Hop Nutcracker. You know, they're touring all around the country. So, you know, I follow him on Instagram, and he's always posting, and he's happy. Right. He's looked like he's in his element, you know, on stage doing what he loves to do. So he's doing his thing. He's back.
All right, good.
The Universal Hip Hop Museum will have a, what do you guys calling it? What's the official name?
Revolution of Hip Hop.
Revolution of Hip Hop, which is at the Bronx Terminal Market. MIT and Microsoft work together to bring some awesome technology to help bring this museum to life. And December 6th until the opening of the actual museum, you'll be able to go to the Bronx Terminal Market and get an immersive all AI hip-hop history.
Yep.
And this is just a small dose.
Small dose.
So what's the square footage of the final project?
Of the final building?
The final building.
It's only going to be 50,000 square feet, but, you know, with technology, it's going to be almost 500,000 square feet. That's how we like to envision it, you know, because technology, you can take people on to different spaces in time without having to use physical spaces to actually make it
50,000
happen.
sounds pretty good to me, I'll be honest.
That's a nice
pretty
size.
good start.
Yeah, it's-
What also, and how can people give right now? Because I know it's important to continue
Yep.
to raise money.
So, yep. So,
Chairwoman says yes. Absolutely.
yes. So, Giving Tuesday is December 3rd. It's the biggest day for nonprofit organizations and charities around the country, around our country, for people to give, and they can go to uhhm.org/donate to donate anything, $1,
Universal Hip Hop
$10.
Museum, uhhm.org.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
/donate.
/donate.
Because
So
the money's gonna have to keep rolling in for this thing.
money's got to keep rolling, and this is a big project. And listen, hip hop is the most powerful art form and music in the entire world. I mean, people have made millions of dollars. KRS-One and I believe that with everybody that's in hip hop, if we each give back a little bit, this thing could last a lifetime.
And have you had correspondence for those very established, well-to-do artists?
Yes, so LL Cool J is on board now. He's been a strong advocate of the museum, and Nas recently came on board. Nas and Mass Appeal.
Oh, that's great.
So Nas he's a big proponent of preserving the culture, and I got to give it up to Nas and Peter Bittenbender over at Mass Appeal for really getting behind the project.
This is dope, man. Very exciting.
Nana Ashhurst, Rocky Bucano, thank you so much for your time today. Universal Hip Hop Museum. I'm sure we'll be talking to you guys again as we
make sure you guys come up.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
And
We'll be
donate.
there for sure.
Every penny counts.
Everybody counts.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
One time, man. Universal Hip Hop Museum.